Pat Smith, you can find him on Twitter at Pat Smith Radio. It's a great follow. Also, co-host of Three Man Front, among many things, and the mothership of a lot of talk radio, WJOX, as well. Pat, thank you for your time with Craig and Paul. David Smoke. So is there, like, the SEC is very good about protecting their own. It's like, I can fight with my brother, but you don't need to fight with my brother, right? But they're very good about protecting their own and being very, very proud. Are we about to see some bloodshed among others, picking and choosing who should be a part of the college football playoff from within the conference?
Well, I give it another week or two, and I think you're probably going to start seeing it because they're hoping that a lot of stuff's going to get settled on the field. But when you go down to the fourth tiebreaker to try to figure out who's going to play in Atlanta, listen, you guys are used to this in the Big 12. You guys were the first one to say, you know what, we're going to play everybody. We're going to have 9 conference games, and we're not going to deal with all this other kind of BS that SEC now is having to deal with because they got rid of divisions. And so it has been a colossal mess. But just give it another week or two, and you already hear Greg Sankey. He went on the Paul Feinbaum show last week, and he basically was saying, look, you should not be penalized for going to play in your conference championship game and lose. So that was kind of setting the stage for the likes of an Alabama or possibly a Georgia. If they got to the SEC championship game and they lose and take that third loss, there was already the politicking going on. But you're already hearing Lane Kiffin say some stuff yesterday, and you've heard Kirby after the game against Tennessee the other night. Yeah, just give it another week or two, and it's going to be like a good old-fashioned family Thanksgiving gone awry.
On that, Why? I mean, obviously now he has to deal with it, but he would not die on that hill for any other conference for going to your championship game and losing. He said it's more of a reward just getting there. Well, that's not the song he sang before.
No. I mean, it's not. I mean, see, last year when Florida State was playing in the ACC championship, and then, of course, the day after when the CFP selection came out, it's going to be very fascinating because you've got Tony Petitti, you got Greg Sankey, both having the meeting of the minds this summer in Nashville. These two conferences, they won at least 4 automatic bids. There's a lot of talk about what's going on, that if the SEC doesn't get their 4 in, or if the Big Ten doesn't get their allotted number, whatever the case may be, this year or next year, that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to take their ball and they're going to go home. I mean, that's just the general feeling in my neck of the woods. I mean, nothing official, but it's just the fact that that's why the SEC has not committed to go to 9 conference games. They want to have this as a test balloon to look at what the college football playoff expansion is going to look like. Let's see how the committee reacts. Let's see how they will vote, and we'll see how it shakes out. But at the end of the day, the Big Ten and the SEC both hold those major cards, and if it doesn't turn out the way they want it to over the next 2 years, then look for them to really strong arm and to get what they want in the next rendition of the college football playoff.
Who is the best team playing right now in the SEC, toss records aside?
Oh, man. Oh, wow. I would probably say Ole Miss. And the reason why is because they found their mojo offensively of the last 2 games against, again, it was Arkansas, but you saw what they did against Georgia. This is a big game coming up down in the swamp. But their defensive front, it's the best that money could buy in the transfer portal. Those dudes have just absolutely 47 sacks on the year. Pete Golden, the defensive coordinator, has just done an incredible job. But who wouldn't with that type of talent that they've been able to get out of the portal? So I would say right now, because both sides of the ball, they're just playing really, really well. So I would have to say it's Ole Miss at this current moment.
Yeah, everybody's beating everybody, and yet I saw a note where Texas has the one game with Georgia, lost by 15. A&M hasn't played any of these teams, have they? Have they played any of the ones in the mix right now at the top, although that's about to change in 2 weeks when they host UT?
That's correct. You know, they're in my state this weekend playing the Auburn Tigers, and they're only a 2.5-point favorite against a very bad Auburn football team. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. A lot of people on my radio show, you know, they'll call in every day and they want to know what Greg Sankey and the University of Texas, what kind of deal they struck, because the schedule that the University of Texas has been one of the weaker ones we've seen in quite some time in the Southeastern Conference. It was almost like, hey, welcome to the SEC. And by the way, we're going to give you the likes of playing Kentucky and a very bad Florida team and Mississippi. Oh, by the way, we're going to throw in Mississippi State. So outside of the Georgia game, they really haven't been tested that much. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get to Atlanta and whoever they end up playing, and perhaps it is a rematch against Alabama from last year at Bryant-Denny Stadium. That would be very interesting to see because let's just be honest, neither Texas A&M or Texas have played the type of schedule like the Georgia Bulldogs have.
Pat, do you think A&M has the juice to not only beat Texas, should they beat Auburn this week, like you said, only 2.5-point favorite, but then to turn around a week later and beat whoever it would be in the SEC title game?
I tell you, I mean, it's very difficult to win on the road in this conference. Going to Jordan-Hare at night, that is going to be a tough task for Texas A&M. Is Texas A&M a better football team than Auburn? Yes. But a lot of weird things happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium at night. Ask Georgia. Ask Alabama. A lot of really, really – it's a very tough place to play when those fans are amped up. So, yeah, I would say that is a very, very difficult task because you got to get through Auburn. Then you come home and you obviously got the game that everybody's been waiting for a very long time. I think right now Vegas has it as that Texas is a 7.5-point favorite on the early lines that was established, I think, by FanDuel a couple days ago. And if you get past that, then you're probably going to play, as of right now, the University of Alabama. And so going in there and having to go up against an Alabama team that has kind of righted the ship and Jalen Milroe playing the type of football he's been playing, defense has been really well for Alabama over the course of the last 5 games. They've been your turnover machine. They've forced at least 3 turnovers in 5 straight games. They're third nationally in that category. They're playing very well right now. So it will be a tough task for Texas A&M, but if you can get to Atlanta and you've got a shot, again, that's such a spectacle game, and with the CFP on the line, I think Aggies have the team to do it. It's just a very tough road to hold.
Pat, who is the most annoying fan base in the SEC, and why is it Tennessee?
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, fired. You know what? I will tell you this. There's been no love lost between Tennessee and Alabama. Of course, once Nick Saban came to Alabama, because Tennessee under Phil Fulmer, Peyton Manning, they went on about a 6 or 7 game run against Alabama. Then all of a sudden, Saban got there, only lost 1 time in 17 years against Tennessee. But Heupel's done a really nice job. But it's just been interesting listening to the whining by the Tennessee fans over the course of the last few days because they're getting amped up because they're like, okay, so you mean to tell me that we beat Alabama head-to-head, and so the CFP committee is going to take an Alabama team that we beat, and they're going to put them in over us. What's wrong with that? Well, if you look at Tennessee's schedule, currently there is only one Power 4 team on their schedule that is above 500 that they have beaten. I really wish the CFP would release the strength of schedule for all of these teams. I was on a webinar with the CFP about a month ago, and we were all astonished that was on that call because we asked the question, hey, what about transparency? Can we get the strength of schedule? Can we get this? Can we get that? And we were told resoundingly no, that they were outsourcing the strength of schedule, and that data was not going to be available. But they would tell us that there's 12 different data sets that's involved with the strength of schedule, but they cannot release that to us. So we were like, now hold on a second. Now that's going to be a problem moving forward because it's, ultimately going to be a problem because you're going to have number 10, number 11, number 12, number 13 wondering, okay, why did we not get picked? Why were we chosen over this school? And they can't explain it to us. So I wish they would be more transparent in what's going on. But the Tennessee fans, they're going to be the ones that's really going to be going crazy, maybe even starting tonight once these rankings come out.
Well, look, transparency is never a thing that they value. It's never been a thing that they valued, Pat.
True.
And so now that you have more, like before it was just really 1 or 2 teams that you had to be mad about. Now it might be 4 to 5. That you throw that out there, and that's more that people have to be. And then it's maybe not 4 to 5, but years from now, like 3 years from now, it might be 20 teams who, when you are transparent, are like, wait a minute, now you're changing the rules. If they are transparent, then they can't have any kind of narrative.
True, and again, we've got ACC fans that will call our show. And, of course, they immediately go into the ESPN. This is what ESPN wants because they want, to set up the SEC. But the ACC fans forget that ESPN has the contract with the ACC as well. So that kind of dies on the vine. But I go back to the original question you guys asked me about the SEC eating their own. It's going to be, again, guys, having a situation to where if Alabama ends up in Atlanta and they lose that game and they're sitting there with 3 losses, and then Tennessee either doesn't get in or Ole Miss doesn't get in with only 2 losses during the regular season, then you're going to see all sorts of chaos. I mean, if you thought FSU fans were bad, you wait until Tennessee or Ole Miss fans get pissed off. Then all of a sudden, we got all sorts of a holy war going on in the Deep South. That's for sure.
I know what I'm rooting for now.
Yeah,
I want that. I want to see it. I want to see it.
One of the things is that, there are logos and helmets and tradition or whatever, but you're talking about a group of about Ole Miss. They're not a part of that. I know they're good. They're really, really good. Heck, they might be the best team. Who knows? But when you look at Georgia, Alabama, and Texas as teams that are all fighting for this, and most likely all 3 will get in some way, but you have Tennessee that's a pretty history, tradition-rich program, and thank God if it's LSU or Florida who have their history not even a part of this. This is going to be fun to see who starts pointing the fingers at the others. Do you think that will happen? I know you said wait another week or 2.
No, listen, it absolutely will. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, matter of fact, I go back to something I said earlier about Lane Kiffin. He said at his press conference yesterday that he's already talked to these coaches around the league, and they don't even want to go play in a SEC conference championship game. So he's trying to dilute the fact that there's no way that Ole Miss is going to, unless you get major chaos and upsets over the next 2 weeks, there's no way that Ole Miss has a path to get to Atlanta. And so he's already diluting the game and saying it's not important. It's not the way it used to be. All these coaches supposedly want to take the week off so they can get ready for the CFP. That's been the debate in Birmingham has been, okay, does Alabama really want to work it out to where they can, win and get to Atlanta and then have to face either Texas or Texas A&M or even a Georgia and then perhaps take that 3rd loss? What is that going to do in regards to their availability to go play in the CFP? So these coaches are already laying the groundwork for the argument. Now, I haven't heard a lot from Steve Sarkisian, but Lane Kiffin, listen, one thing's for sure, this is setting up for a potential, a situation in Gainesville because every time Lane Kiffin has had a little bit of success over in Oxford, he will open his mouth, he'll shoot himself in the foot, and the football team won't play well. See LSU earlier this year. So he just cannot exist with success in Oxford. So he's got to be careful this week, but he's the first one that's already saying what he's been saying in regards to maybe laying the groundwork for that SEC championship game not being the way it needs to be or should be.
Pat, one team that does not have to worry at all about being in this cluster of the playoff conversation is LSU. 3 straight losses, 4 on the year. And you say, oh, well, they got Vanderbilt this weekend. Well, hey, who knows, right? What do you think about just the situation in general there? How untenable is it with Brian Kelly? And just your thoughts on what we've seen from the Tigers at this stage.
Well, I tell you what, it's been a complete embarrassment. When you look at what Brian Kelly has had at his disposal and what he has done with less, you think about them. They lose to a bad USC team. They should have lost to South Carolina if Lenore Sellers, the quarterback, didn't get hurt. They never led Ole Miss until the final play of the game. They were destroyed by Texas A&M in the second half. Alabama destroyed them for 4 quarters. Then you go to the Swamp and lose to one of the worst Florida teams in recent memory. So you tell me, outside of the fact that you owe him $60.8 million to get rid of him at LSU, why in the world would anybody be excited about Brian Kelly and what he's doing? Zero. This was a team a month ago that we were already sliding into being one of the most exciting offenses. Hey, they've righted the defense. They're not 110 in total defense. They're a top 50 defense. Look what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, you got Texas A&M. That happened. And then Bama comes in and slaps them around. It's a situation to where I'm not really sure what's going on down there, but I promise you, those people down in the Bayou, they will not stand for this. It's basically the Notre Dame or the northern version of Ed Orgeron. You think of Orgeron and Les Miles both won national championships, at LSU. And here we are going into year 4, and Brian Kelly has not even come close to sniffing or putting LSU in a situation of potentially playing for a national championship.
Who and what fan base among the SEC brethren, and I include, of course, Texas and Oklahoma, are, in your opinion, the most impatient, if you listed 1 through maybe 3 or 4?
I will tell you, based on the first 6 games of the season, it probably is the University of Alabama. Alabama's been spoiled. Nick Saban, what he was able to do to come to Tuscaloosa. I mean, guys, we were having daily conversations on our show after they lost to Vanderbilt. Well, they lost to Vanderbilt because, you know, he doesn't wear a collared shirt. He wears a hoodie. Talking about Kalen DeBoer. You know, they play music at practice. You know, Nick Saban never allowed music to be played. You know, he brought an ice cream truck during a fall camp one day after practice. And it's like all these things that you would think nothing about started bubbling up. And it reminded me of before Nick Saban, when we had the likes of, obviously, Mike Shula and Dennis Franchione and all these guys in Tuscaloosa, because this fandom, you know, God bless Kalen DeBoer and his family for them taking the job. But if he has any kind of maybe the next 2 weeks or if they miss out on an opportunity to get to the college football playoff, I promise you the patience level at Tuscaloosa may outbeat all of those other schools that you mentioned in the SEC.
Pat, great stuff, man. You're the best. Appreciate your time, what you do to cover the SEC, and thanks for joining us when you can.
Hey, just pray for continued chaos so I can keep paying my bills.
I am too. We are too. Yeah, we all are. Thank you very much, Pat Smith. Three-man front, excuse me.